was good. Yeah.
Longer than usual.
Brendan and my new bestie Michael were there. So I was chatting with them for a fair bit of it as well.
Yep.
So that's why it went over slightly more than the typical workout did. Although, I mean, I didn't only get there until 3:15ish, and I finished around 6:20, so 3 and a bit hours. That's pretty typical.
Standard,
yeah. Just a little bit different, but nothing too crazy. Let me just hear what this sounds like. Yeah, sounds good. Welcome to anyone who is on the live stream, if they have joined at this point.
Oh, it's on. Sweet.
I can see that they haven't. Let me type in a comment quickly.
Yeet.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'll jump into it. It's got this. Make this one a little bit smaller over here so I can see that. That looks pretty good. Put that one up. No, I want this one up the top. And then I can reduce the size of this, hopefully. Yep. What about you, man? How's your workout? It's been treating you?
Yeah, this morning was good. Was able to do the normal today. Yeah, got the CrossFit session in, which was heavy and sweaty and fucked. It was in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And then stuck around, and I had to do some clean and jerks today. Did not do them because I was like, whoop, nah, body's feeling wrecked. But then I ended up doing some fucking fantastic handstands and handstand walks.
Okay, that's good. Fantastic handstands and handstand walks.
Yeah, it felt good. I think it was
What's your max handstand nowadays?
I don't think I've gone past 20 seconds as of late. But I did today, I guess it would be a 10. Don't think it went anything over than that. Mm-hmm. But then there was a couple of 20-meter walks.
Okay. Not to steal your thunder, but I did a PB of a 10-second straight arm support. So right arm like that, left arm.
Shit.
Just the tiny bit of the fingertips on. I'll do it the opposite way so people on the video can see. But it was full locked up engaged with the left arm, I guess, in this case, and then just touching.
Nice. 10 seconds. Good.
Yeah. The left arm, I think I managed to get 4 seconds with that, which was there's something there. But it takes a bit. Okay, coolies. Well, we have notified the Discord as well. Don't think there's anywhere else that we can really.
I just sent it through to another guy called Ryan as well. He was asking about the podcast. So perhaps he might join in.
Who's Ryan?
Ryan Ellis found me through the... No, I'm blanking. What was it through? Through Tony Robbins.
Okay, cool. Tony Robbins. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, I know, right?
Going live.
Yeah, watch out, Tony. Just because you've got 120,000 people watching you live, we're up next. We're coming to get you.
Yeah. So
he's got a new book coming out, actually.
Yeah, you're gonna read it?
I do want to read it. Seems interesting. It's actually more focused on health and stuff.
I said, are you gonna read it?
Am I going to read it?
Yeah.
Didn't I just say yes?
No, you said you want to read it.
Oh, yes, I will read it.
Okay. Good.
I will. Slowly smashing through the Steve Jobs one, actually.
Okay.
It's interesting. A lot of backstory, which I didn't know about him.
Which one? What Steve Jobs book?
Biography written by Walter Isaacson.
So it's a biography?
Yep.
Coolies. All right, man. You're running this one. So...
Are we? What's this one about?
You're running it, so you best know.
Shit.
And I need to scroll down, and I do need to make this bigger. Oh, how annoying. How annoying that I can't do that. Now Hello.
how the features are so high.
We go.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, Mere Mortalites, to another edition of the Mere Mortals podcast. We have Musings on today, a chance for us to have deep conversations with a lighthearted touch. We are inside today. We are live, folks. So for those who are watching this live at the moment or who will be listening to it live, thank you for joining. For those who are going to be listening to the audio afterwards, welcome back. Now, I've got Juan over here on the side. If you're looking at the video, if you're listening to the audio.
Kyron wearing a different shirt. You might not have seen me wearing this before. I'm not sure it's a
Argentinian shirt. I have not seen you wear that for, I don't know if ever. Perhaps you have worn it.
On the podcast, it might have been like once. But
okay.
Yeah,
it's a rare shirt. It doesn't normally come out, which is good.
It's fitting in with our theme today.
Is that why you brought it out? I like it. Okay. So our theme today is competition. Now, we probably hovered around this topic a few times in different trends or themes, but I thought maybe calling it out in particular would be a good thing. And in particular, why? I saw a post by Cardone on Twitter.
I'm not a fan of
it. Twitter. And I'm not normally one to comment or go against particular things. Generally, my comments go on the side of sounds good, positivity, or I just won't comment.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular tweet, which is a recent one, was something to do with competition.
Okay.
And it made me go, no, I need to comment and be like, no, I think you are totally wrong here.
Okay.
Great. And a lot of people were actually saying the same thing. Now, I wanted to pull this up because I was trying to find that actual post and I went, I can't really locate it. So I was like, okay, let me just quickly pull up what his original understanding or sort of commentary around this is. And I found this particular article from 2016. So he's obviously talked about this for a long time. And the title is Competition is for Sissies, is how he calls it, right? Okay. 5 years ago.
Okay, there you
and
go.
I'm not going to say, maybe I'm not going to read the full article.
Maybe he's redeeming himself because I'm actually liking the start of this.
Yep. So he says, people say competition is good. That is either a flat out lie or just dumb. Competition is for sissies. The goal, ultimately, is to dominate.
I had a feeling that was where he'd be going.
People make the mistake of getting too caught up in competing with the wrong players. They are too busy looking at the person at the desk beside them instead of the top 3 players in the industry. Look, when you are competing, just to compete, you are putting yourself in the same category as the other competitors. You're too focused on what others are doing and end up doing the same thing the same way.
Yeah, okay.
So there's something that I agree. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the goal is ultimately dominate. Doesn't have to be. Like, I don't particularly agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with the competition is for sissies either, or at least that implies something very different in my mind.
Bit clickbaity, but yeah.
Exactly. But anyway, so that's probably where the idea came from.
I thought it was because, one, you were going to do the CrossFit competition.
Also that because it was sort of raised to my mind.
Somewhat talking last, I'm not sure if it was the last meanderings, about the pressure and sort of whether competition helps us.
So there's been a couple of things.
Yeah.
So look, this is, let's start it off with, and there's lots of trails here, so I was trying to think through
a definition. Can I?
Okay, give me a have you got one?
I've got a bunch of stuff up, so I wanna jump into it. Yeah. So here's a couple of the definitions that I found online. So the activity or condition of striving to gain or win something by defeating or establishing superiority. Over others. Then there is the sort of like noun of the actual contest itself. So, taking part in a particular area, yada, yada. Another one, this is the Wikipedia one. So competition is a rivalry where 2 or more parties strive for a common goal, which cannot be shared, where one's gain is the other's loss. An example, which is a zero-sum game. So competition can arise between entities such as organisms, individuals, economic, social groups, etc. And I think all the others will be something like that. A situation, someone is trying to win or be more successful. And the act or process of competing, that one's always a useless one. So yeah, those are the general definitions. And any
I mean, I didn't note myself down any definitions, but my thoughts would be,
I thought it was pretty obvious, to be honest. I didn't need too much thinking about what I was going to say to really jump in and say, my
only other thoughts as well is that I think the only difference there that I was just thinking was from a competition. You can all be in a competition, and it's not like anyone loses per se. Like if you're in a competition with 10 people and everyone gets some sort of monetary prize, that's like like a Grand Slam tournament. Like everyone who goes gets some sort of money. So
Grand Slam,
So like the Melbourne Grand Slam in terms of tennis.
Tennis. Oh, okay.
So say if you compete there, if you came whatever position, you get some sort of money. Some sort of benefit. Sure, if you win or the competition, you get more money, but it's not like you walk out having to pay money. Maybe net the fact they have to fly to the actual event and all that. Maybe you come out losing.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't focus on the.
But I wouldn't focus on the fact that like, competition is there's one outright winner and like gets all of the spoils and nobody else gets that. Like,
I would have just said thinking about spoils in it is somewhat useless. I would definitely say winners and losers though. Like there are people. There's an inequality in the outcome. You could say this person has this and this person gets this, and one is generally viewed as better than the other. Yep. I would have put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's start it off then at the very broad stroke part, because you can dissect this really deeply. But I think we'll get there in the general conversation. Is competition for sissies, Karen? Thoughts? Is it? What are your thoughts on competition?
Well, yeah, that whole article is just tainted by the fact that Grant Cardone wrote it, and like I mentioned, I'm not particularly a fan of him. I wouldn't say that outright. No, I can think of plenty of cases where there's people who are the whatever a sissy is. People are the opposite of that who compete. So I would say no. I'd say flat out no to that. Flat out no.
Yeah. Okay. So mine would be like flat out no. I wouldn't say competition sissies, but. Okay, now just generalizing it, do you feel in your personal life, do you feel like it's good to be competitive? Do you see any need to be competitive?
So this is just answering for me,
just for you.
Okay.
Just for you.
Yeah, almost 0. I was actually going to say like this was one of the ones where I had to think a little bit beforehand, because my initial reaction was like, okay, this will be good because. This will be like a good conversation, because I know Juan's going to be probably more pro than I am, and I'm probably going to be more negative.
Although maybe it'll be an interesting conversation.
We'll see. But I was definitely saying, initial reaction is it's a fool's game for myself. So playing competitively and thinking in terms of competition, I got to beat this person. I want to win this game. I got to do this thing. Pretty much useless for me. I don't get much benefit personally from it. So that's my general standpoint. Broadly speaking, that's a different.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Well, let's just say at least personally.
We'll get to that at some point.
Personally for you, you're like, okay, competition doesn't serve a purpose really in a day-to-day life.
No,
not really.
No, almost. Yeah, I can't think of times where in the last 2 years, 3 years where I've won something.
Yeah. So I'll challenge it. I'll challenge it here, because I'm going to say where I am competitive in my like day-to-day life. And I thought perhaps this would, but I guess it depends on the definition. So I was going to say, for sure, I'm competitive in a day-to-day life about my own things, as in the goals that we're setting, specifically gym stuff. So I'm very competitive personally with things that I'm doing in the past, as in
with who?
Against myself.
Yeah, so I was going to bring this up as a question. Can you be competitive with yourself?
So I think you can. Because it is, for all intents and purposes, you are two different people. You are today, and you are whatever that human was a week ago. Sure, you can, in our range of how we think about things, we just all go through time, but it is sort of like spliced across time. So I would see that as a competition against yourself, either at a previous time or select time of when it would come about. So I would say, yes, you could compete against yourself. And then through that nature, I would say, for sure, I would compete against myself, specifically when it comes to fitness challenges, lifts, the likes of those. So,
gotcha.
If I go in there to do some clean and jerks or squats, I'll definitely be looking at the previous lifts that I've done or the previous goals. And I'll go, I always do this. Like, let's just say I'm doing a squat session and it's 4 sets of 10. And it's at 120, and if I look at my stats and it goes, my best ever at 120 is 12 reps, I'll go, okay, from the last one I'm feeling good, I'm going to get one more rep, just so I can get that extra, like, okay, I've gone a little bit higher just that particular time. So I'll often do that, so I feel like I am competitive against my own targets. But by the by, generally, I don't think the word competitive probably applies to the rest of things. I think there's something else that's similar to competition, but I wouldn't put it as exactly that. So the comparison is in work life or in, I don't know, it's I think it'd be more, there's more comparisons that take place, but there's no thoughts of competition in the sense of, oh, today, if I do this, I'm going to win out the most steps that I've, it's been done today in Morningside, or, oh, I trained the most, or I did this. No, it never falls in line with that in terms of like an external. It always ends up being, oh yeah, personally, that's something that I've done before, or can I stretch it out a little bit?
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. I would probably say no, you can't be competitive with yourself because there's no real clear winner or loser in this situation. So let's just say you're going for a run and you're trying to beat, do 10Ks. The first time you did it in 55 minutes, so you're a decent runner, and then you're trying to beat that. You're trying to do it in, sub 55. Now, whether you didn't do it or not, I don't think there's a particular winning or lose. It's almost like, because it's a past version of yourself, there can't really be a winner or loser because they're not going to feel bad that you beat them, for example. So Kyron from a week ago, he's not going to feel bad because I beat his score. Will I feel good? Yes, but it's not, I don't think it's because it's at the expense of him. It's not at his expense that I'm somewhat winning, which is sort of what I felt was, I guess, like a bit of the definition. There's a clear winner and there's a clear loser from the where one's gain is the other's loss. So my gain in that situation, I don't feel is past Kyron's loss.
Yeah, I just don't agree. I think I don't agree with the definition of one person's win is the other one's loss, because again, it comes back down to, it's a loss of that point in time, say, coming first from a monetary perspective, right? But would you say that in a competition? It's an interesting one. So it's a point in time competition.
Yeah. So here's a way I could imagine it's somewhat becoming competitive where, and I really hope this happens in the future, you have a sort of ghost runner. I always used to imagine this, like if I'm running and then there's like ghost Kyron, he's just ahead of me, and like that dude, like you can see it. Yeah. And then there could be some sort of interaction where you run and you don't beat the time, and then this either hologram, I'm thinking a hologram, but it could even be like, an avatar on your phone of you, and he turned around and like it plays on the screen, haha, like you're shit, I'm the best, blah, 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 sort of thing. And then vice versa, if you win, he's, moping and down, and you've sort of acted this out, and then you can be like, oh yeah, I would say that, yes, maybe it could be more of a competition because you've got that actual physical or digital substantiation of this thing. I guess
I'd say maybe, but again, let's just say that example that you gave about running 10 kilometers and you want to go sub 55 minutes. Like, there's got to be a winner or a loser. Yeah. Okay, sure, for competition. If you run 58 minutes, guess what? You're the loser in that competition against yourself.
But you don't feel it though, particularly. It's not past Kyron 1 because you did shitter today. And that's the other thing, like the activity or condition of striving to gain or win something by defeating or establishing superiority over the others. Yeah,
because theoretically, sort of because I'd still say, like, let's say if I was in competition with myself about deadlifting, now my younger self Juan has won that. Like, I'm not going to reach those levels ever again, basically.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, okay, that's the superior one. Oh, but again, I wouldn't consider that. See, I'm not competitive then to go, oh yes, well, I'm going to have to beat this one day. Okay, in that particular scenario, I've gone, okay, no, I'm not going to be competing with my younger self. I guess you could splice it between, do you really call that competition? Do you just call it comparison? I guess in that sense.
Somewhat quibbling in a way.
Yeah. But my thoughts around this, because I got down the thoughts of, okay, specifically, let's say with fitness. So we've just been talking about, say, competition is like you giving the example of, me giving the example of me competing against myself from last week or something like that. But in fitness in particular, let's just say now we're surrounded by people or like in a group of people. So for your instance, obviously the specific's going to be people doing handstands around you, right? Do you feel like you get elevated to some extent, or decline in performance when you've got other people around you where they perhaps pull a competition of two scenarios. One, there's the almost like pressure cooker scenario where it's like one-on-one, or the opposite where there's just a lot of people and you're almost, by a side being like, oh, I can see that they're performing really well. Like, I'm going to do it even better. Like, I'm just going to crank out like a 40-second hold, 50-second hold.
Yeah.
What about those two?
Yeah, no, neither. Like, I don't surpass myself on neither. I don't produce the best performance because there's others there. So I am struggling to think of a time I've ever done a PB of anything because the act of interacting with someone else made my system, my performance, my whatever you call it, my energy levels jack up higher and made everything better. So if you it's always been a detractor.
So
I would say always been a detractor. Playing in the grand final versus playing in a game in the middle of the season in soccer, I'm always going to be middle of the season better.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna break it down on my side more because mine probably goes into two different sort of ways. But for you, exactly like so. Let's just say Brendan challenges like, "Hey, time to do some handstands. Like, I bet you I can beat you. Let's do who can hold up the longest." What would be the difference there, would you say, on your body in terms of what goes through your mind compared to a normal handstand that you would go up on? Does it just technique and stuff just fly out the window and your mind goes to something else, or heart starts racing, or?
Yeah, it'd be more like the heart starts racing. I'd start to overthink. I would probably overthink would probably be the best way of describing it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my one, because I really thought this through, I was like, how does it actually play out for me? And I went, what I end up finding is when I get into competition that's not as a pressure cooker, so not like that ladder, the former that I described where it's like, it's you against someone directly or a group of someone directly for it's like, oh, compete and see who comes out best. That I don't generally perform the best at. So to give you a direct example, that would be the equivalent of me when I used to swim. So I'd go to States for a swimming meet, and it was... Well, I'll go back in the previous levels. Let's talk district or regional, those sort of levels. It was a competition, but it wasn't, because it was kind of like there was like 5 or 6 people who were just so far and above, better than everyone else. It was kind of like you're just having fun. Really, there's no real competition. You're all gonna make it. By the time we got to States, it was like, oh no, everyone's like really good. And at those levels of competition where it's like, okay, now you compete against like everyone who's pretty like similar to your caliber. Nah. I don't perform well like that at all. Similarly in CrossFit nowadays, if I go up against someone who I know is, similar or better than me in a lot of these things, which the answer is they are better than me at a lot of these things. Yeah. What comes out is I either perform just okay or actually worse, because I kind of see them either going ahead or I go, oh, yeah, no, I can't keep that up. And it kind of like reduces what I think. So I think for me, competitiveness against a group of people, not great. I don't think I'd be phenomenal at it. I've never been like excelled at it. I've just either been neutral or worse performing. And again, I think it just goes to overthinking it. You go start moving away. However, now if I ask you this question, if you were just to compete, let's say, okay, let's say you and another mate are both at 30-second handstand holds. And you go, okay, cool. Let's compete. Let's see who can do the longest handstand hold after a week. Not in front of each other. You can just do your own training, do whatever you need to do, film it or whatever. Come back the week after. How would you feel about that competition?
Yeah, I guess that's like sort of abstracting it in a way. So yes, maybe that could spur me to greater, maybe not greater performance, but greater effort. Like it could make me put in more effort than perhaps I was before.
Like face on challenge type of deal.
Yeah. So like in the moment, if it's as real as it gets, physical reality, I'm clashing swords or whatever. That no. But yeah, if you abstract things enough out of the way, then perhaps I could see that being a, Brendan has been saying he wants to get a one-arm handstand.
Yeah.
I want to get a one-arm handstand.
For all intents and purposes, that's competition.
Well, is it though? Because am I going to feel is he going to lose or am I going to win because one of us gets it?
Theoretically,
first?
yes.
How?
Because if the competition is who gets the one arm handstand first, then it's going to be a winner.
Okay, so and this will get into something I wanted to chat about, which is this book here, Finite and Infinite Games by James Cass. And in this book, he's basically talking about games. He says that there are at least two kinds of games. One could be called finite, the other infinite. A finite is played.
I would say it's called finite game.
Finite, yeah, whatever. Finite game is played for the purpose of winning, and but then is it an infinite game?
No, it's infinite.
Yeah, there we go.
Stupid English.
Yeah, for the purpose of continuing the play. So finite is there's a purpose of winning, and i.e. competition, and infinite game is for the purpose of continuing the play.
Correct.
So in this scenario, am I going to win versus Brendan, or is it then going to be the continuum of the play is that, oh, maybe I got it first, who can now get the one arm on their left hand first, who can get one arm in their shape. So in this sort of sense, I would say no, because I'm not going to rub it in his face. I'm not going to feel better because I got it, because if he got it before me, I would feel good for him. I wouldn't feel bad from that. I'd be like, good on you, man. That's
where I disagree with the competition. Like the fact that you got to say competition means that one's going to feel bad or one feels good. Because I'll tell you right now, again, I competed, let's say this morning on a CrossFit against somebody else who I was like training with. At the end, I wouldn't even tell you who like won or lost. But in the end, it like didn't even matter. Like no one felt great that they won.
Yeah,
great
and
that
so
they lost.
I wouldn't say that's a competition then. I'd say you're not competing then, because you're not trying to win or beat someone.
Ooh.
That's just you doing.
No, well, see, I would disagree, because I was like, I was trying to beat him. Like I was like, I'm gonna get a better score, and at the end, whatever the score was, it didn't end up mattering. In the sense of, oh, did I win or lost? Actually, probably should check.
How can there be a winner
because
or loser?
in the moment, let's just say I'm going first and he was going afterwards. So I didn't know exactly what his time was going to be, but I was like, oh, I'm going to crush this as hard as I can so that I can be the winner against him. So I was competing to be like, oh, I want to beat him.
But then you just said you didn't even know if you won.
Yeah, because at the end of it, it's like, oh, it doesn't actually matter for me to be the loser or the winner of this.
No, I'm not buying that, man. Sorry. This book will also have some definitions. So it's got to be bounded. There can't be like changes in the course of play. So you can't be wrestling, someone wins and then say, oh no, we are actually competing for the style of wrestling rather than the actual submission. You can't change the rules or the boundaries within, which sounds like you've done. You've said, no, so this person's going to do this, and then at the end it's like, well, let's hold hands and we're all winners.
I guess here's the other example. So like, say CrossFit Open is going to come up, and then in that participation is going to be like 5 people competing against each other, or however they set it up at Torium. In that, I will be competing to be like, I want to be like the fastest of completes this in this whole round type of deal, so that I can place well, right? Now, do I care what the position is? Oh yeah, because I want to be like, I want to like kick ass, do really well. When I get that result though, if I kick ass, am I going to be like happy? Sure. If I came last, am I going to be disappointed? Not really. So in your question, let's bound it, because I do know Finite and Infinite games. Say bounding it was talking about the handstands. Let's just say it was bounded to just getting the one arm handstand for 10 seconds. Let's just say, right? That was the bounded game.
Yeah.
Now I've said, cool, competition. Let's see who gets there first. So are you saying that if you lost that, you would be sad and disappointed with it?
If there was maybe like a strict saying of let's do this, but there isn't. There's he's doing it, I'm doing it. There's maybe like an underlying tension, but I wouldn't say there's an agreement of the rules and what'll happen, and there will be a winner or loser. I guess the other point of this is you can play finite games within an infinite game. So maybe your infinite game is to have fun with cool friends at CrossFit, and we all are going to continue the play of CrossFit as long as we can. So until death, maybe. But you can play the finite game within it, i.e. the competition within it, which is, I'm going to beat this dude on this day. And then it's sort of that plays within, it's a smaller role within the larger, the game of CrossFit, I guess.
For sure.
So maybe you're not competitive in CrossFit, but maybe you're competitive in this one particular zone. So yeah, maybe I guess you could say that. But for me, I don't know. Here's a question for the viewers at home. Does a competition need to have a winner and loser, and do they need to like feel bad, or does the loser need to feel bad and the winner need to feel good in essence? So is that sort of part of it? Because for me, that feels like it's almost necessary. There needs to be, deep in your heart of heart, if you lost the game, you're like, fuck. You can be a gracious loser. You can be all smiles and stuff. But if you go all, off and alone, it's just you'll experience negative emotions or feelings or outcomes because you didn't win the game, the competition.
No, it'd be interesting to hear from you. Yeah.
So
I would disagree that has to be part of it for it to be a competition, I guess.
Yeah, okay. So Peter had a comment. He was saying, Karen, you're in denial, mate. You are absolutely always in a competition with other potential mates to the other sex, whether you are conscious of it or not. So this, I guess, is like...
That's true.
So fucking abstract that it's really hard to put a pin on it.
Well, I would just say, I would probably push back on Peter and say, that's the sort of active versus inactive competitions that you lead on a day-to-day life. Like, I guess what we're talking here would be like active competitions that you're participating with active conscious decisions that you're making. You can say you're in a competition with shit, I don't know, other humans to breathe air. There's like an exchange, air running out or something.
We could be in competition with aliens for resources and we just don't even know it. You're part of the game, but you don't even know it.
Yeah. I get Peter's point on the competition that yes, you are there in terms of, but like how well you present. Like, let's say you go out to, the example is like if you go out to a bar, right? And there's 100 guys and 50 girls.
Yes.
Then there's a competition in terms of choice. And let's just say all of single. Yeah. There's a competition. Is it an active competition that you participate in though?
Well, I would say that one is getting closer to what my definition of a competition would be. But if you like look at my life now, which is, doing fun things, doing my handstands and stuff, I'm not particularly approaching or like really trying to find a girl and trying to reproduce right at this very second. It's like, yes, you could spin it that way, but I feel that's bending the word. It's almost like looking everything through the lens of power. Why are we having this conversation? People could relate that back to power in some way. Oh, we're trying to gain power over our audience. We're trying to use our words to empower you, or like one of us is going to come out of this more powerful. You can spin that in every way, and I would say, if you're using competition in that sense, it's like it's diluting what I feel is
it might mean something in my head.
And what the definition would say as well.
I wouldn't imagine competition as well to fit within infinite games. I would like it'd have to be in a finite bounded structure where it's got clear rules, expectations, and like there is a winner and a loser out of something. You don't really find that in infinite games. Again, if you're competing to a male in society, that's an infinite game because there's going to be more males that enter the picture, right? You might become first, you might win overall, and then somebody else comes in and just beats you because it's an infinite game and it just keeps going, or you die. So it's not really bounded by anything.
Yeah. To add to this, he said, every handstand, every podcast, every book you read, every philosophy you contemplate, hell, even every t-shirt you wear, messy that I'm wearing right now, you wear is driven by your subconscious need for sexual fitness to potential mates. Once again, I would say this is true. How deeply does this relate to competition? I'm not so sure.
Do you reckon all of it is? Do you reckon all of it would be driven really for that?
It's for me. I view this somewhat how like I view the question of free will. I'm just going to come back to this again. If you push me to the point, I would say yes. Everything that you do, you could view in terms of sexual selection, but is that useful in this context that we're talking about right now? No. Is it useful when you're deciding whether you are going to buy the blue doll or the green doll for your daughter? No, like that's not the correct context to be contemplating that choice. That choice is more like, I want to make her happy. Is she going to prefer blue or green? That sort of thing. So whilst true, it's not it's not a black truth, but it's maybe like a what's like a weird obscure. It's like a kaleidoscopic truth. It's true, but it's just too abstract. Like it doesn't help.
All right, I'm gonna put a pause there. Let's move into some Boostagrams.
Came in.
First,
Yep.
let's jump Boostagram before we go back in. I want to look at. I just want to make sure I get it from the very beginning because I think I looked at this sometime in the past and went, "Oh shit, I think I'll miss some of this." So, I think the last one that I talked through was a January ones, and there was a February 1st one that I don't know if I got the quack.
I believe
last time?
Yeah, I believe we got that one. Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'll start from the February 5th.
Well, if not, Peter said quack 222 using Fountain.
Good. All right. So the ones from after that, so we got Dave Jones. Dave Jones, the man on Castomatic. He's got 2 here from Castomatic, both 2,112 sats. Thank you very much, Dave.
It's called a rush boost one.
A rush? Yeah. There you go, rush boost. So from Dave, first one, my favorite book in 2021 is a tie between The Yearling by Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings and The Deep Places by Ross Douthat.
Just gives you like the hardest names to say.
Man.
I'm looking at them like.
Second was Game Wizards, the story of D&D's rise and fall.
That actually sounds kind of intriguing because I've always wondered how, like, because I've never actually played Dungeons and Dragons, so I've always wondered like what's the appeal of this game. Why?
I'm sure there's a massive backstory behind it, but yeah, that's interesting. Thank you very much, Dave. And then the second one from Dave is good luck in your competition. 1 phone finger number 12112 sat sent by Castomatic.
Phone finger. Is that a reference to your finger screwing up or what?
I have no idea. Phone finger number 1.
I remember we were talking about your fingers and you've got the tape on them right now, so could be something to do with that.
Maybe I'll have to recall it. And then the last one here from Peter, again sending some ducks. Thank you very much. And he says, and don't forget about all that amazing cocaine Pablo Escobar brought into the world. Hero Pablo Escobar. We talked about this about competition, right? So again, Colombia continues to be a great competitor in the world market by still being the largest cocaine exporter in the world. So they keep killing the kingpins and whatnot. Doesn't matter, man. Those places have just got like such a well structured, regimented place that it just. Yeah. Unfathomable how you're going to splice that up.
I've been influenced by my ex where she was very disparaging of any idolation of Pablo. So like even Narcos, she was like, he's portrayed somewhat as a good guy there.
Where was she born?
Andrea.
Yeah,
Colombia.
Where in Colombia?
Bogota.
Well, see, it's different. You have to. I think you specifically, and I had a conversation personally with Sam about this. Talk to people in.
I didn't care about Medellin.
Go and talk to people in Medellin.
Yeah, we'll see. Actually, I should have.
It is a little bit different.
Should I have talked to them about it when I was there? Probably not.
I think you should have, just for fun. To see if you come out alive.
I think...
competition, man. It could be like, can you get to the airport before they kill you?
I think most of them are sort of done like with that just whole topic of...
Oh, dude. Can you imagine how often people would go there to talk about that in like, these sort of holidays oh, God, do you remember this? I'd be like... No, I don't want to recall the bombings going through my whole city, goddammit.
For sure.
Again. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for the Boostagrams. Really, really appreciate it.
We've got another comment here. Giraffe J and JURAPH. Giraffe. Why is everyone putting weird names today?
Damn.
Maybe if you include the competition against past self and the progression gained from engaging in this competition against others as a win, the whole winner-loser dichotomy becomes a little grayer. So... I'm
agreeing here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to stick to my guns and say there needs to be a winner, like a clear-cut winner and loser. For me, that's a competition. If
I agree, there's got to be a clear-cut winner and loser. I just don't agree that you have to care who that winner or that loser is. Okay. There can be a competition, but at the end of it, you can finish and be like, didn't actually, like, it doesn't matter, but there is still a winner and a loser. If you want to go back to winning or losing, there's a winner and a loser. Okay. Kind of like, when I swam at school and I won, say, 6 out of 9 swimming classes or courses or races, I go, well, it was a competition because I won them and I could go back and be like, I won them. Did it matter at the time? not really. Like,
Okay.
it didn't actually matter whether I won them or lost them.
So is it possible for you to win a competition and not feel good?
Win a competition and not feel good?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
How so?
So, I mean,
how
the
would
one
that-
that jumped into mind is if you unethically win a competition would be one. Let's
Yeah.
just say, handstand.
You steal, you cheat.
Or handstand example, you like Photoshop edit and it's like 50 seconds instead of like 3-second hold. It's just like repeating loops. I think an unethical win in a competition, you can feel bad about a win in a competition for sure, just because you've breached those morals, I guess, or breached the rules of the bounded game without other people finding out.
Yeah.
That would be an example.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. And I guess also like people in a competition who do a PB, they still lose, but they're pretty happy, They
Exactly.
Yep. Damn it, I made it to the Olympics. Wow.
And that's what I mean. Like, I think you can
cool.
have a competition where you can have clear winners and losers, but people still be happy about the fact that they came third, right? Like, you could have someone who
Yeah,
gets a
that's true.
PB of like 20 kilos in an Olympic, like clean and jerk, and goes, holy shit, like I got to the Olympics, I made a PB at like my first Olympic showing, and I came third. Now, technically, yes, you didn't win, you lost. You were the second place loser. But ultimately, you're like completely ecstatic. And then perhaps even the winner in that same competition could be like, shit, I always win, but actually it was 2 kg below my PB. Shit. Like,
Yeah.
stuffed up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I take it back that the winner needs to feel good and the loser needs to feel bad. I can see that. Yeah.
But I will say that I think overwhelmingly, I would say that is what normally happens.
Yeah.
Winner's like happy, loser is unhappy.
Yeah. Okay. In the standard one where winner feels good, loser feels bad.
Yep.
Does one get joy because you are stealing it from the other person, and that's sort of like where that joy comes from in the world, or is it a non-zero sum game and that there's sort of like joy that is just created from the competition? So you.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
So it's like, is like, I guess the another way of putting it would be, are competitions in general creating more joy in the world, or is it sort of a neutral thing and it's just people are trading joy and like negative and fear and depression like back and forth? I won this game, I feel really good right now, and that sort of win is the same as this other person's loss, and then you go off and live your lives, and then maybe you trade yours other place, this person trades it there, and you verse again, and then this guy wins this time, and it's like you're all back to square now, sort of thing.
I would say it's not neutral. I would say there's actually a net positive of competitions, and I'm just going to broaden this out, like way broaden it out, in the sense that, let's take businesses. Let's say we only had one fast food place, McDonald's. Just McDonald's.
Good old Mickey D's.
Now, Mickey D's pretty good. I like the burgers. I like the stuff. But there's competition in the world of fast food. You've got Hungry Jack's or Burger King for our US folks. You've got Subway. You've got Five Guys in the States as well. You've got lots of different places, right? That's competition to each other. Guess what happens when they compete all against each other? Because there's definitely some winners and there's some losers, and that changes. You can bound it to like, the hamburger for 1980 or hamburger for 2000. But in the end, there's an infinite game that's being played in there, right? But by the by, there's competition in between all of them. And it actually breeds a better result both for end users, consumers, eaters.
Well, I guess
also
the
for
better
them.
result is more people are eating fast food than they used to.
Yeah, so I guess so that competition has bred better products for both, us eating and perhaps maybe not as healthy, whatever. But also it's bred more money for them. So in terms of them competing, they've actually succeeded in all of them making way more money because the market itself has grown larger. Sure, it was going to grow larger if it's successful because of it going. Would I think that, say, if it was just Mackie D's compared to all of these others, would it just be as big, right? Or would they have gotten to that point? I don't think so. I think that the competition drives them to go that further. So then another example that I would give would be Grant Cardone's one where it's like, competition is for sissies.
Sissies.
And I would go, shut up, Grant, because what the hell, man? You're in competition as well with other people. Hell, I've seen a conversation with him and Gary Vee on a podcast, and they were being competitive about who is the hardest worker.
Well, the funny thing with him is you could literally find within 10 videos back behind that or before that, where he will be he will
so
be talking
competitive.
about how you need to crush this dude, how you need to.
Well, I will say that he did say that you shouldn't have competition. You should just be crushing and dominating everyone. Fine, but I've seen videos of him talking about competitiveness. I'm imagining in those realms that those guys are competitive in some ways between, say, a Gary Vaynerchuk, a Grant Cardone, Tom Bilyeu, all these guys. There's some competitive juices because you're putting out products out to the market that are similar. You're trying to influence the similar people and try to grab market. But in the end, it's sort of like it's the rising tide. It's kind of lifting all boats as it goes along. So even if you're losing in particular aspects of it, you're kind of gradually going up with the win. So I would say as a whole, and even we can go back to the conversations of sport, I think competition in general, if you can, I would say compare the fact that the world record keeps on getting broken. Now, is it because humans as a whole are getting better? Maybe, but it's something to do with the fact there's a competition to try to beat that target and beat other people. I'd say 100% is going to be something against that. Like there's something to break through a particular barrier, and that's the competition, both in oneself and against other people. So that would be my view. Thoughts?
Okay. Yeah. But I don't have too much to add on that one, I don't think. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question for you. You have a little Juanita.
Yep.
Would you want this child to be? That's exactly how that sounds. Would you want this little baby to be, the most competitive person in the world, the least competitive, or on the sliding scale between that? Where would you think would be a good point for them to fall on that? If you and this is not taking into account other characteristics. It's just like you have the choice now, and you could maybe press the button. Where would you? And I'm forcing you, gun to your head. You have to.
Okay.
You have to pick.
Okay. Let me just make sure I really think through that. I want to get your answer first.
Okay. I would say probably slightly less than the middle, so like the median a point, towards the side of being less competitive. And my reasoning for this is, I think the more competitive you can get, the more you can get stuck in thinking of the finite game. So the finite game. Man. You can. I think either is okay. If you get stuck in that mindset, this is the chasing the Joneses mindset. Yep. Keeping up with the Joneses. I need this car. This person has this thing. I'm not going to be good enough until I have this.
But you said it's competitiveness, not partnered up with anything else. So because what if you're really competitive and then be the humblest person there is, or have no ego?
I would say it's.
Or do you think they're too interlinked?
I think they can interlink to each other. I think if you're just base competitive level is really high, you can maybe fall into the trap of making things more competitive than they should be, and not focus on the infinite game, which is leading a good life, of helping friends, of finding a loved one who will respect you and treat you nicely and things like that.
Yep.
If you're on the other side, yes, there are downsides because perhaps you won't be as material successful. And this is where I can see Peter screaming, being like, "You freaking idiot. If you're not material successful, evolutionary speaking, you're going to be shit." And yes, that's true. You might have less chance of spreading your genes into the next generation. And part of me definitely would want that. It's like, yes, I want lots of grandchildren and great-grandchildren and all of the progeny spreading out.
Yep.
There's definitely part of me deep inside that wants that at the very least. So, but I would say you just on the child's perspective, I think they're more likely to be to have a better life if they're slightly less competitive, but still have a little bit in them,
okay.
Just enough to
out of 10
to be able to play the game.
Out of 10, 4?
Yeah, 4 is probably a good level. Yeah,
mine would be okay.
11.
No, mine would be 8. Mine would be 8.
Oh, damn.
I would want them to be not to the extreme competition, but I'll give you my answer. Why would I want them to be really competitive in that nature? And I'm going to have to address the fact that you said interlinked with others. Sure. The fact that you are a competitive person sometimes does lend towards having that, I'm going to be better than you type of mentality or ego that drives it. But I think I would rather start at the point of having someone who was naturally competitive and then drive humility and understanding and compassion to them than the opposite way around. I think that building someone up to be competitive when they're not, in my mind, seems like a harder play than the other way. So I think that's where I'm coming from, being like, if there was a really competitive person, I think there's proven methods to knock them down in a way that they can learn.
Oh God, just imagine you like slapping little Juanita.
But the reality would be, if you were a really
humility.
competitive kid, right? A fantastic way of obviously humbling them or making them understand the reality of the world is, sure, you make them put in competitions where it's really goddamn hard, and then they learn the reality of the world and how it can be hard. Now, putting them in those positions can also probably help them in elevating them, because they go, I'm really competitive. This is what like the top level is and whatever. No, they've got a passion in that. Cool. That's probably where you get like world champions. That's where that stems from. Not necessarily saying that has to happen, but I think that there's ways that a competitive kid can probably be kept to be competitive, but built up that, but I get the understanding that I actually can suck it sometimes and have the understanding, but still be like completely competitive for sure. Than the other way around. So I'd like to say, for me, my example would be, I feel like I used to be really competitive, and then I've toned it down a lot more when I realized how shit I am as a mere mortal. But I think it was the opposite way around, where I was just very shy to competition, let's say sports like soccer or swimming, and I'm like, I don't want to do that just because it's like it's against someone. It's fine, I'll just sort of do it my own. It would be a harder sort of step to go across to go, I'll become a little bit more competitive. I feel like that breach almost is forcing them to do it as opposed to pulling them back. And I think that also falls in line with, I guess, a lot of my, thoughts or methods in life, where it's what's better, to push someone to do something or to have to pull someone back to the level, like if they're too like angst up about it or too energetic. And for me, I'd be like, I'd rather someone be too energetic and pull them back than have to try to push them to a particular energy level.
Yeah. I think this is where, like I was mentioning right at the start, you're more competitive, I'm less competitive, and we're just going to naturally want to side with what
I'm saying is, if my kid's not world champion, if all three of my kids, when I have 3 kids, are not world champions in some sort of profession, then I have done my job incorrectly.
Mate, you're having at least 8. I'm telling
you. At least 8. Well, how many Olympic sports are there in the Summer Olympic Games?
Yeah,
I don't know, 72, 82?
That's a lot.
Maybe. So if I have like 82 kids, I could put
but
one in every single one.
They could be
multiple. True. Oh, okay, maybe I can. I can
tone it down.
I can make them like reasonable.
Well, let's be kind to your future wife.
I'll give you an example of competitiveness of me though, because I haven't given you like examples of competitive. Yeah, sometimes rise up. So here's the easiest one. If he listens to this, it's going to be so good. I met a guy today at the gym at CrossFit in the morning, and I was introduced by another Spanish speaking guy, and he's like, "Oh, look, another Colombian. Oh, Andres is Colombian as well." He met another Colombian. And I was like, oh, hey man, and talked in Spanish. Yeah. And he said, I was like, oh, what was your name? And he said, Juan. I don't know. Juan.
Of course.
Do you know what my thought was?
I was born before you, so my was better.
Not one of those. One of my thoughts was, that's right, I'm still going to be like the best Juan at this gym. It was like, if I'm doing a competition against this one, I'm going to win this competition. Like, this is going to happen. Yeah. So I think there is some natural sense to me where it's like, ooh, okay, competition time type of deal. But again, and back to our point, it's like, I wouldn't associate that with like, that means he loses and I won. It's just like, no, it's a fun game to play. It's a fun bounded way to play, and motivates me to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to push myself to do whatever.
Yeah. And look, here's a vice versa of me. Whilst playing soccer games, I would regularly forget the score. And this is a bad thing, because you need to know if you're winning or losing. Like, I would sort of be like, should I be defensive now? Like, do we need to attack? Like, I don't know what the score is. And it'd be in like semifinals and stuff like that as well. I'd just completely, I'd forget. I would, and not only would I forget, but it like sort of wouldn't matter to me. It's like, as long as I did the best that I could, that sort of is okay. Now, I have lost a grand final and I did feel bad. So there is definitely
you were in a competition at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But to give you another example, it's an exact example of that. I've remembered, it wasn't semi, I think it was quarters. And I got put to the bench for it was maybe, I don't know. It was second half. At some point in the second half, I got taken off, and I was fuming because I wasn't in the competition. So I was watching my team losing, and I was like, "What the hell is going on? I want to be part of this competition. Like, get me in there." I knew like the score, the time, what things are going, and I'm just like pacing, just like I want to get into this. So that's probably a comparison.
And I guess for everyone at home, look at super competitive over here, Mr. Juan, competitive with people's names. Kyron, calm. Trying to think of like some.
I don't know what the opposite of competitive
alliteration. Yeah, like nonplussed, just zoned out, maybe. And yet, if you look at where we are in life, like, roughly like material success, we're roughly the same. Net worth, we're roughly the same. Probably like happiness levels, roughly the same.
And while we're pursuing different things in fitness, it's kind of like, it's like sort of similar. Like, even when we do, for the variety of paths that we've taken, we probably roughly do the same, like muscle ups. We do some roughly like...
If you had to, use an index of all the things that people can imagine of, I don't know, health, wealth, amount of, like introspective thoughts, all of these sorts of things, like, I think summed up, we're pretty fucking close. Like, we're literally in the same room.
Yeah, that is actually interesting.
So, this is once again where it's like you would choose a more competitive child. I'd choose the least.
Might end up being the same. Might end up getting to like the same sort of levels. Yeah,
probably end up the same.
So there you go, Peter. That's the answer.
All right. A couple of comments here. Peter says all is fair in love and war and hamburgers. Brendan Jaya says do a trick. No, I'm not doing handstands in here, mate. There is a balance to be made here. Brendan is, by the way, this is the
man we've been talking about.
The one-armed man who we're apparently in competition.
And if you are listening to us today and you don't know about Brendan, you can go check out the 3 interviews we did with Brendan a while back. You can go find those as well.
Yeah. Peter says there is a balance to be made here. I think it's important to teach your children to not view every other human as a competition by default, but also as potential teammates as well. So yes, this is the infinite game portion. The more friends you have, the more you can continue the game on.
Well, here's my thoughts. Here's my thoughts, because you obviously brought up the Finite games.
And then just to finish off, your number one, and then Peter says not everything is zero sum. Yeah, agreed.
Finite and infinite games, I would say my default position would be competitive in the Finite games, and then be...
Well, you can't. That's the point.
Well, no,
you can't be competitive.
Don't try to be competitive. Well, you can try and fail miserably because you're not competing against anybody. So you could certainly be competitive in an infinite game. You thinking that you can be competitive in an infinite game, but the reality is you cannot be competitive in an infinite game.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, you could be like, I want to be the richest man in the world, right? You can play that game all you want. You might achieve it, and then you'll lose again at some point in time, right? Because either you'll die, or someone else will take over, or something else will happen. So you can try to be competitive, like you yourself can act in a way that you could be, but you can't genuinely expect anything else. And again, in any infinite game, like, you're going to die. So there goes that. But you can be competitive in finite games. So be more competitive in the finite games than not. Maybe not 8 out of 10, but have some competitiveness more than the general.
Yeah. Okay. Here's so Peter brought up the zero sum, so I wanted to briefly mention that as well. Do you think the most competitive people think in a zero sum mindset, i.e., I can only win by this person losing? Like, is that the thoughts that go through, well, even your head, I guess, when you're doing this? Like, is the emphasis on them losing and you sort of, gaining, or is there something else behind that? So I guess like another way of putting this is can there be only so many winners, i.e. the 10,000, like the 1,000 best sports people in the world, the 100 richest, the 10,000 GOATs, greatest of all times, 5 Nobel winners per year. Like, is that value only because you're beating all these other people, I guess? And so, I'm trying to just get to the zero sum mindset. Is the person who's in really competitive thinking about the other person losing, how often would that be in their mind versus them winning?
I don't know if it would be that many. But it falls back to me that at the end, because you could be in a competition with someone else or be in a competition in a group setting and the like, but at the end of the day, what you value out of the competition might be wildly different to another individual. So I wasn't going to compare myself here because I've never been in anything that's like truly competitive. But let's take Royce, for example. I'm just remembering either a couple of videos and stuff that I talked to him about. The whole conversation was, for him, he got a really good score at the CrossFit Games last year. Now, he could have done a lot better, and it was just by a few points and a few margins here and there. Now, in that competition, it wasn't that he was in a mindset of like, oh, I lost because they won, even though that's 100% the rational truth, actually what happened, because they came first, they got more points, so he got less points. But his mentality was more around the side of, oh yeah, I can see those places where I didn't put on that extra hard yard to be able to get there, and now I know what to do. I don't know if that's the general mindset that it's a, oh, this person, like, I want this person to lose so that I have to win mentality.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Another question, could there ever exist a universe without winners or losers? So there's just the competitive aspect has been driven out of us. Would that be a better place, a worse place, I don't know, healthier place, a non-healthier place,
What are your thoughts?
I'm torn between this because I always hear things like, war was necessary for us to create all these advances in nuclear technology and for innovation, like it, and it makes everyone work harder. So the GDP of the planet somewhat rises, although then of course you have to take it away by the fact that you're destroying things. So it's sort of, creating product only for it to destroy other things. So it's sort of more it has to be more destructive, right? And war, everyone comes out worse because of a world war.
I don't know. I think there's probably more people that profit out of it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. See, that's probably another thing where I'm like, I would say the world, like, net GDP is gone down because of war. I would say people are more productive, but they're more productive.
Over what time though?
Let's just take 1914 to 1918.
Maybe in that period, there's a negative sense by the amount of destruction.
So I do have like a sort of innate dislike of competition because I think it promotes violence in a way, but there is something to be said about competition that is working better. Like, would the light bulb have been created if Edison and Tesla, Nikola Tesla, weren't trying to
work together.
Well, I guess like if they were la-di-daing and being like, oh, let's compromise, it would have been a worse system off. The Asadika system would have been shit, or the BDC, whatever it is, system that they would have created together probably would have been shit. Like,
true. Because if it wasn't for the competition, it wouldn't have driven them to.
Yeah, Tesla had his purpose. He did some really amazing things. Edison had his purpose, and on the whole, if you look at it, you're like, shit. We sort of needed both of those dudes, and we needed both of them at the same time, competing against each other because they did some crazy things. Now, there's not taking into account. I think Edison seemed to be a bit of a piece of shit and did some underhanded things and whatnot, but we'll put that aside for now.
Yeah.
So
it's all in the name of competition.
Yeah, I would probably say no. The world would, life would stagnate without competition. Is how I would say. But man, it would be nice if we could get rid of the violent aspect of it. The death part. What if we could only find competitions where it was truly non-zero sum, so everyone comes out of it a bit better, even if there's like minor falls and whatnot. Like it keeps promoting everyone to a better plane. Whereas I would say there's definitely competitions where it's everyone comes out worse as well. So identifying those and being like, let's do those ones.
I don't know. And I could hear like Peter probably through the screen saying stuff about this, but I would say, in relation to this again, I don't think you can have that. I don't think you can have a human race that's not competitive. And I say that, like, you look at the example of bugs that fight each other for the female species, right? Or animals that fight each other for their shells or for their homes. I think that's probably just more something that you will find in the normal animal, like, human animal kingdom, and you find it in humans as well, that there's going to be some way, shape or form in terms of, where you live, or like a home perspective that you're going to have a competition against, and the competition in just, procreating. Like, I don't think you can take that out. So I couldn't imagine like a new world where you have humans that don't compete in any form, shape. That. What does that even mean for procreation? Because does that mean that like no one fights, everyone just dies out? Well, we'll just all die out.
Yeah. Or what if it's like?
But if we move beyond that, I would say
what if you could just have that? What did I say? It was like a holographic or kaleidoscopic truth, or psychedelic, whichever one of those. Kaleidoscopic truth, where it's the higher level. We're all in competition, but we're somewhat unaware of it. But in the actual world, conscious world, we're just all la-di-dying, we're all winners.
Yeah, I would say you couldn't take it out, but I definitely would agree with let's move away from the competitions where you have like terrible circumstances for the losers.
But then let's finish this off with, eighth place trophies. Get the fuck out of here.
Nah, fuck that. Yeah. And that for sure. Like, when you come to competitions, and I think there's competitions where we got them when we were young, right? Like thanks for the participation award. Thanks for the medal for coming 17th, or
we're all winners here.
Ribbon for, you did it. Like, you did it. I will put a caveat to that on, there are certain challenges where sure you should get something for it. Like if you complete a marathon, like that could be to me like you're competing for the fact that that's a challenge as a human to do that, right? Now you're not competing to win for sure, but that's a fair task. That's a fair thing to do.
You should get an NFT for that.
Yeah, get an NFT, 100%. No more awards. Be doing NFTs for sure. But get rid of just giving stupid awards for stupid reasons in any competition that you think it to be deemable. There are reasons that people should feel a loss.
Yeah,
that is the needed thing. And that's probably why I go down the path of I want a kid to be competitive, to also be involved in those things, to know what it is like to lose. So I feel like if you don't understand losing, it's a challenge, man. It's a challenge.
One's going to grow up 8 losers, is what I'm hearing.
8. The biggest losers that there ever will be. That's what it's going to be. 8 biggest losers.
Okay, before we finish off here, there's a couple more comments. We had Giraffe G. I think you only make progress in the face of some sort of adversity. Originally, it was nature that provided this, which prompted things like shelter and farming. So yes, that aspect is definitely somewhat needed. How much though? We'll find out in the metaverse, I guess. How much competition will be in the metaverse?
Well, we'll see it. We'll see it. There's going to be plenty of competition.
Yeah. And then Westside Baby. So this is my brother. He says,
Westside.
Mr. Onion Jr. Savudi. And myself watching from the gym. Love you guys. Thank you, Mr.
Mate, they're watching from the gym.
Big
props.
After
get some gains.
Getting after it.
They better be getting competitive in there. Because
Yeah.
PP shit at lifting. But maybe Voodoo's better.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't.
If you don't bench 150 or above, you considered shit. You might as well not come talk to me. So,
But yeah, he's pretty screwed then.
Good.
He's pretty screwed.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us to the end of this episode. It was actually quite a long one.
It did feel a little bit longer.
I would say
803. Ooh.
Top 10.
Over an hour. We haven't done over an hour for a little while.
Top 10 longest that we've done, if I had to guess.
Again, appreciate everyone for tuning in, especially if you're doing so live. If you're listening to the audio afterwards as well, of course, thank you for listening in. What are your thoughts around the competition? Are you competitive? If you're a fellow podcaster who listens to it, are you competitive to other podcasts? Like, do you listen to the Meme Models and go, holy shit, I can't believe how much they're losing?
No. No way, mate. We're definitely winners in the podcasting world.
Good.
But you can do a competition with other Boostagrammers.
Correct. Do you want to be Dave Jones and Peter?
If you want to be top of the level, you can send us
Who
a
do you reckon out of the top, out of Dave or Peter?
Oh, that's hard to say because they've both sent through some pretty big ones. Dave has been upping his game recently as well, which has definitely been much appreciated. I don't know. You know what? That's actually a hard one. That is actually hard. I'm leaning towards Peter. Peter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to actually get some stats out.
Yeah.
I think we should do something like, we'll make it a competition or something, and end of this year, like we'll the winner will get, I don't know, we should do a shirt or something like that.
Yeah, I would
100%.
definitely do something. One will come visit you in Canada and or Alabama.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see where we go.
Okay, everyone, if you do want to send us a Boostagram, so what we were talking about, there's a Value for Value podcast. So you have listened to an hour's worth of our beautiful ramblings about competition, and we would appreciate some value back from that. So how much did you value this show? It could be a little amount, it could be a lot amount. The onus is on you to choose and to decide how much. So how can you do this? Go to newpodcastapps.com. Get one where you can send Boostagrams. So this is sending a small amount of cryptocurrency, in this case Bitcoin, through to us.
Can they send us
streaming.
NFTs yet?
They can send me one because I put my Cardone wallet up on one of the screens a while ago.
Okay.
I can put your MetaMask as a QR code, and people can send you something. So if you want, they can also do that. So
I'm happy to receive Bored Apes for sure.
Yeah.
Send them through my way.
Yeah, just a couple of them. That'd be all right. And yes, we really do appreciate it. We obviously want to include you in on the show as well. So if you send in a Boostagram, you'll be acknowledged in the show notes. I have been doing that for these, saying thank you for the people who supported in the last week. And then also, obviously, there's the fun feedback in the show. So all of those are plenty of reasons why you should support the Mere Mortals and
100%.
Send us through a Boostagram and get competitive with it. Other than that, Wani, do you want to take
I think
this
that's everything for now. Me Immortalized, thank you once again for joining us. Juan out.
Cardone out. We'll take over the world.
Woo!
You.
Good.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are turning off the live stream. Easy.
Thanks, guys.
Says Peter. Much appreciated, mate, for joining in. And we will hopefully